Welcome to my first video, y'all. This is pizza hickory that a good family friend of mine gave to me. We actually made some hickory benches for him, and this is one of our all-fall pizzas. So obviously right now I've got my 5/8 inch bowl gouge, just trying to make the blank nice and round. And you see the nice big old chunks of hickory flying off as it's going through there. And I'm taking my time and just making sure that I get it nice and round. Obviously, right there, I'm just taking my bowl gouge and just making sure there's no bumps. And if there was bumps, I definitely feel it. So now we're going to go and work on my tenon. I like to use a tenon because I can get a lot of grip with my four-jaw chuck. As you're starting, you're just trying to get a 5/8 inch again. You take as much material as you want. You see the chunks flying off because I'm being kind of aggressive. But I will switch it here shortly to my 1/2 inch bowl gouge as I try to work on the actual foot to make it the shape and size that I want. And again, I'm taking my time and just cutting little pieces off as I go through to get the size that I want. As I'm going through here again, I'm just taking slight, small passes. I'm getting down to the size. I have a rough idea of the size of the foot that I want. Keep doing it in my four-jaw chuck size. Do it enough times, you kind of remember what the size you have. But as you're going down, I'm just trying to get that nice foot, nice tenon I can use here later on. And again, you got to make sure your tool rest is right where you need it because it can get moved as you're going through there. I'm putting down a lot of down pressure with my left hand so it doesn't kick back on me as I'm making this cut. And there, I'm happy with what I got. I'm gonna switch to another tool I have, and this is gonna help me make that cut on that tin to make it look like and make it fit the angle of my four-jaw chuck. It takes a little practice, but eventually you get to the hang of it, and you can kind of eyeball it to get that degree, the slight degree that you need as you're trying to put your tenon on. Now I'm just adjusting my foot on this and making sure it's nice and flush like I like it. Nice and straight across, but you know, get it to the point where, again, we'll like it. And then eventually here, I will start making the bowl design. Once I'm happy with my foot here, as you can see, I'm going to switch now to my 5/8 inch bowl gouge and start roughing out the actual shape of the bowl because the outside is the bowl. Your outside is what determines the shape, and then you're just coring out the inside. And here I am taking very aggressive pass because it is my 5/8 inch bowl gouge, and I can take a bulk of that material off. Again, as I'm going through here, I'm putting a lot of down pressure with my left hand just to keep that bowl gouge from jumping around and having to catch. Again, since I am taking a good chunk of material off from pretty deep cuts, I want to make sure it's nice and holding that down nice and tight so I can nice contact with my tool rest. Again, it does help to have really good sharp tools, you know, as you're moving around. So I'm moving around here to the top of the rim to figure out, you know, get it set where I want it. So once I get that point set, then this is connecting point A, the top of the rim, and point B, there at your foot. Again, just taking a bunch of bulk material off. It doesn't have to be pretty right now because all I'm doing is just getting rid of that material. Then I'll come back with the 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and that'll be when I start actually making it look nice and done a lot of finesse. Here I have switched to my half-inch bowl gouge. I am making smaller passes, doing a little more of the final cuts, and just making it look a little more. If you see it is taking shape. Now, when you're cutting this, you're not looking at actually where the bowl gouge is in contact with the bowl. You're actually looking on the other side of the bowl. That way, you can kind of watch and see what you're doing and where you need to take off more material, and just watching that as you go from right to left. This is always one of my favorite types of turning bowls. Is looking when you're making that outside, making the shape of a bowl. You're looking, like I said, you're looking across the bowl to the opposite side, and as you're taking them out, you can start seeing the shape start to come out. Each piece is a little different because as you go through, you don't know truly what it's going to look like. Time takes time. Look at it, see how I'll look at that, make sure there's no spots. Since it is hickory, I definitely need to resharpening multiple times. I'm not gonna bore you with that, but I did have to stop and sharpen a couple, 3 or 4 or 5 times on this bowl because it is hickory. So again, here this is my half-inch bowl gouge. Again, taking a little more finer cuts, the more precise, sharper cuts. Again, you're just working your way around it. I'll come back towards the foot now to get that foot the way I wanted the base, and then I can connect that point again to the top of the rim the way I wanted to look. So now I switch to what you call a shear scrape because I'm right there at the point of my foot where I kind of like what it is, but I'm just going to take a little material off. You can see it's just taking little fine pieces of wood, just little slivers off, and just shaving it essentially. Instead of actually doing the cutting, is just shaving it just to make it to where. Now I'm gonna move back up to the top. I think I've got that foot pretty much where I like it. Now we'll move up towards the rim. And again, we start moving this material in the middle of the bowl to make a nice round concave shape as we go through the rest of the bowl. And again, putting a lot of down pressure on with my left hand and just doing what's called a push cut. Just going against with the supported grain cut. Now, a lot of the stuff I've learned over the years from watching a whole bunch of other guys who lock a lot more than I do. But again, I'm just doing what I do here. But anyway, again, going to back to shear scrape, excuse me, as I go through here, just taking out some high spots that you can see as I'm turning it. They really don't show up here in the video, but as I'm looking down, I can see these spots I just need to shave down. The cool thing about this shear scrape is like an eraser. It just moves that stuff away. Not being aggressive, but just taking a little bit at a time, a little layer at a time, and it's really nice to get rid of tool marks and little mistakes that you've made as you go through and making your cuts. So it's a good idea to stop and check your bowl as I go through. So I'm getting right now, I'm just looking at the top of the rim and see if there's any places that I need to come back and maybe hit again that are just maybe little rough cut yet. But anyway, they're looking good. Again, I'm feeling it, looking at it. Decided to probably do just some more shear scrape because there's a spot right about there in the middle that looks a little bit a little heavy, and it's not quite as that nice smooth concave look on it. I just want to take that hot spot down so it's nice and smooth and continuous. I'm gonna switch to another one of my bowl gouges. It's not a half-inch bowl gouge, but it has a slightly longer uh, cutting surface, a little more of a taper on it, so it's better for when I do these shear scrapes. I like it a lot better. I can do a little more finer detail, and I get a little better scraping with it. So I switch to that one real quick. And again, just gotta keep moving that tool rest so you can have nice, good coverage, nice, good support as you're making these cuts. This is a chance where you can get a catch. It can be really bad. It can hurt you, but also can damage your piece. But right now, just get nice support, shaving that down, making a nice final pass, making it nice and looking good. One beautiful thing about hickory is when you get these shaves, sometimes you don't really even need to sand it. That's so beautiful. Just checking that right now, looking good. Now we're going to go to sand on the outside. Now when you sand, I typically go from 100, 120, 180, 240, and 400. Just go through those grits on the outside and inside. Go through. I have this handheld one, but also have a powered one. It just depends on which one I feel like using today. I feel like using just a handheld one, going through there and just sanding it. Going from that foot coming up to the rim and just getting it nice and done. And a lot of people don't like sanding, but good sanding job leads to a really good looking bowl. And like that, now the sanding's done. Now it's time to take it off. Take it off my warm wood chuck or screw, and flip it around, put it in the four jaw chuck, and start doing the inside, which is always one of the more interesting things to do and to look at it because you can start to see the bowl take shape once you turn it around and put it back in your four jaw chuck. What I like to do when I start doing the inside on balls, I do like to bring up my tailstock to give a little bit of extra support when you're starting that now, because it can tend to wobble sometimes when you move it from where you are back into your full draw strike. But this gives you that extra support to keep the bowl running true as you start to do the inside and start getting all that bulk material out. So I'm gonna grab my half-inch bowl gouge here, run it up to speed. I'll start here on the top on the rim. I'm gonna get that rim like I want it. With this piece, one side was a little bit lower than the other, so I had to kind of come in here and just to make it looking true, nice and straight across, move some material as I'm going through and just kind of watching. There's a few little cracks in there too. I don't want to be careful that didn't make any worse. The good thing always is good idea is to check it to make sure that your rim does look nice, that nothing's blown out as you're doing it. So to me, this look pretty good. So I'm gonna remove my tailstock now and start removing the center. First off, I'm gonna go here and just kind of start removing just a little bit of material here. And this is another half-inch bowl gouge, nice and sharp, so it's working again. Remember, this is hickory, so I've had to stop and sharpen multiple times. Obviously, I'm not gonna bore you with those parts sharpening, but I just started going through here and just kind of moving material, as one other fellow turner calls it, digging a ditch. So that's what I'm gonna do is digging my ditch now, so I can start working my way out to that edge. Once I get to the edge set, then I won't come back and just work from my edge from the top of the bowl all the way down to the bottom. Now, right now, as I'm getting closer to the desired thickness of the wall I want, it just depends on what you desire. Sometimes you want to get a little thicker than this, and we'll switch to another bowl gouge. Again, this one's that one that has a little bit of a longer taper on it, like this one when I first start, especially when I get into the inside of the bowl. So again, I'm just setting my thickness that I want. Again, I'm not looking where I'm cutting. I'm actually looking across the bowl. Again, now I'm digging another ditch. So now I'll start digging a ditch and start removing material as I go through this. One thing you want to remember is when you're doing this, you want your tool rest down enough to where as you're cutting through your bowl gouge, it's basically right in line with that hole as you see in the center as it's spinning. Again, I'm coming up, and that way you cut it nice and true. This again, I'm coming up here to my edge, and getting it set to where I want that edge to now. So once I get this set, I will not come back up to this point. I'll come up to the point where I stop, and then we call riding the bevel, slide it, and then engage Then engage the bowl gouge and start taking it in. Again, you're just taking a little bit of material at a time. You're, as one fellow turner says, you're digging a ditch and you're removing the bulk material that you've cut as you're digging this ditch. And again, you got to move your tool rest every once in a while so you can have nice, good support as you go through this center. And again, sometimes you just got to clean up those shavings through there, and again, just working that way down, removing that center, digging that ditch deeper and deeper. And as you can tell, if you're paying attention, when I do not come up to the very top of the rim again, I come out to the spot where I stopped. I look across the bowl to the other side, and then I slide right that bevel and then engage the cut, and then start coming back down from that. So as you go through here, eventually I'll stop a couple times and just start to feel my thickness and see if I need to remove anything else. So you want to try to keep that uniform thickness all the way throughout, from the top all the way to the bottom. And again, just remove the material, digging that ditch, hollowing it out, taking my time, nice, smooth, shallow cuts, not trying to get too aggressive. You can see by the shavings, they're not really big and thick, they're kind of small and thin. Again, just shaving it down layer by layer, just taking nice time, taking my time, coming up to that, engaging the bevel and riding that down through there. So it's just nice and smooth cuts. Coming down and just cutting down to that spot where I get that center. And clear some space out again, clear out that dust because it can build up on you. Now I do. Other fellow turners will probably notice this, but I do have my lathe a little high. Most turners have their lathes a little bit down, so you're using your body with this. Just the way I have mine set up, I wasn't able to do that, but with this one, mine's a little high. I've kind of gotten used to it. Anyway, so again, just checking the thickness now, making sure it's nice and uniform. Remember, I had that one crack right there. Just make sure it looks all right. It looks like it's done all right. I don't think it's opening up. I'm just going to do that, and again, flip my visor down. I had to go sharpen again right there. They're getting dull. You can tell once they get dull, they're just not cutting like you were. You're not getting this clean cuts. You're getting tear outs, especially on something like hickory like that. You can really tell that grain getting torn versus being sliced. Just hollowing out from the center out to the outside and getting that ditch dug. That'll come through and dig it back out and follow that concave, that, or again we call it riding the bevel, riding that down through that with my bowl gouge. One thing you gotta be careful about, especially when you're coming to the center, I don't want to get too aggressive because it can catch, especially as that spinning now and getting smaller and smaller. I don't want to catch those grains, and it can take that bowl and fly it right off your four-jaw chuck. But gotta be careful. I've had a few come off for me, and you learn as you go. Now again, just riding that bevel, engaging the bevel gouge after I get to that point. Just going through there and just taking little passes, nice, clean, small, thin cuts till they get to the point where I want to follow that thickness all the way through. Again, here again, grabbing different different tools depending on how you feel and what you like. I'm grabbing this another one again, half-inch bowl gouge with a slightly longer taper on it. I like to get what's really nice when I get inside the bowl towards the bottom. Again, clean off this dust, filling that edge, seeing how if it's coming through, looking good, and working through, and you go from that point on through. as you're going down in here again, I'm starting to get that center cut out. So I need to start, especially need to move my tool rest in there as to get better support. Because once you get there, you don't want to get too far out, then you have a chance of getting a catch because you don't have that control or that sturdy hand. Because I'm getting putting down a lot of down pressure with my left hand. But as you get it extended out, you'll get a kickback or a catch. It's pretty bad. So again, right now I'm just taking off that bottom, coming across to the point where that center is and where the hole used to be. I take a nice small thin, quick, not quick, but thin small cuts. Just taking a little bit of material at a time. Again, it's always a good idea to check your progress as you're doing this again. Check multiple times and see if that thickness is what I want it to be as I go through. And again, there's a little bit there at the bottom, probably about a little over halfway through the bottom of that bowl. It's a little bit of a thick area right there. So just doing that again, around the bevel, just putting my edge of my bowl gouge on it, right to the point, and then turning the cutting edge into it as I go through there. And again, just keep checking. You don't want to get it too thin because sometimes you get to the bottom. Done it before many times. Instead of making a bowl, you make a funnel. As a wood, every wood turner's done it, and every wood turner will continue to do that. Sometimes you get a little aggressive, but it's a good idea to go through there and just to check and feel your progress. Now, right now, I'm again cutting out the center part. You gotta be careful with this. If you get too aggressive, you'll get a kick as you're cutting on the back side of it. As the bowl's turning around, they will kick it up and kick your bowl gouge up. So be careful. Nice, slow, be deliberate cuts. Again, these last few are some of the, in my opinion, not some of the toughest ones because you're like, I just need one more pass, and that one more pass again turns into a funnel sometimes. But you'll learn. It happens to all of us. And again, a quick field. Think my wall thickness. I need to readjust my tool rest. Um, I'm not getting as much support as I want to. You can feel it in the end of your bowl gouge. So I'm just adjusted it, move it into a little bit. That way I can get nice and good coverage. And there's a little bit of hospital here, so I grab a pencil and just kind of, sometimes it's hard to see. So this is making a little mark right there. So that's about where that hot spot is. Now once I get it up and get it going, I can see that mark. As you can see, spinning. You can see a nice dark mark. Now I'll do is I'll come behind the mark, slide the bevel, engage the point right there, and then I'll make that nice pass and get that down to where I want to. Again, it takes some time. Nice, smooth, slight, thin cuts to the point. You want to sneak up on that point. You don't want to go too hard, too aggressive, especially at this point. You've done so much work. You want to be nice and smooth and be careful to get nice and thin the cuts. I'm just about where I need to go. Just feeling there's a little bit. I think I'm pretty good. Maybe a little bit right there. I kind of feel that spot. Maybe another pass or two, and I should get it buried. Again, ride that bevel, engage it back, and rotate your cutting edge in. Take a nice small thin cuts, and then you'll be right there at it. So again, I think that's pretty good right there where I had it. Now we'll just make these last few push cuts through here and take out that center. And then we get to the fun part, sanding. Again, these last few passes hit very bottom, just taking my time, making sure I don't get out. I think I'm looking pretty good. When we'll do one final check in here, unless it feels pretty good right there. So we'll move the tool rest back now and start sanding. But I did notice that there's a few little cracks on those 2 inches again. So don't look like they're going to be structural, like they're going to be do any damage. But I'll put some, a little bit of glue in here, a little bit of wood glue, push it in there, push it in on the inside here, and that kind of fill those cracks. Put that glue in there, and it also makes it kind of like a wood filler, but also keep them from expanding, obviously. So put your glue, do a little sanding. It puts that sandpaper, puts the sand dust, the dust from wood in there, and also it heats it up and actually helps it start to dry quickly. Anyway, just do a little touch up here. Do a little sanding, fill those cracks in, and it makes it nice and again a good wood filler. That way my ball won't move. But these little cracks do show up sometimes. But this is one way to get around that if you don't want to put CA glue or anything like that in there, or an epoxy. Sometimes a little bit of wood glue, a little bit of sawdust in there will do it. Sometimes you might need to bring your electric sander over to get a little bit more sawdust, or a little, I say keep saying sawdust, but a little dust when you sand. That will help you out. Again, that makes the heat obviously helps dry it, but also makes that wood filler, if you will. Well, it's looking pretty good. I think we're ready to keep moving on to the next one. And once we get that done, then we'll go to start sanding. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we'll go back to sanding. Again, just like last time, I'm going to start with 100. We'll go from 100 up to 120, 180, 240, and then 400. One thing when you're doing the sanding of the inside of a ball like this, so you can see I'm starting on the edge, but then when I get to the center, I don't go all the way to that center point, because if you do that, then you'll leave scratches on that backside. I won't go all the way now. I am doing the outside of the ball again, because remember I did put that glue in there. That way, typically if you don't have to do that, then I won't have to worry about it. But since I had to put the glue in there, I need to go back into obviously sand that glue, make sure there's nothing stood up again. Now going to 120, going back and forth between the outside and the inside, not going all the way to the center of the inside. I would just go through all through these grits to get a nice and good look to it, nice and good finish. Again, just running through all these grits from 100 to 400. You can see now I'm doing on the edges of the bowl. I usually don't do that until about 180. Typically 100 and 120 are a little bit too aggressive. You can really round your edges if you want a nice, not rounded but sharp edge, a little break of that iris, so it's not sharp, but yet you want it to be nice and crisp. I usually don't do it to about a 180, or maybe sometimes even 220. because the lower grits can knock it down pretty quickly, and it makes it round over, especially if that's not what the look you're looking for. But this is pretty decent again, hitting this with, I think this is 400 at this point in time. The last few little passes, again, not going all the way in that center because I don't want to leave scratches. Now it's time for a finish. And so what this finish is called a shine juice, it's shellac, and two other things mixed together. When I do this finish, it puts a really high gloss in it. And what I want to do is at first, especially this first little bit, I'll turn it to just a slow speed, putting the stuff on a paper towel and just get a nice thin coat all the way around the bowl to make sure I have a nice coverage and get every spot. Right there, you can see I missed a few spots, right there. Oh, we got it. Oh, and so here we go. Put it nice in there. And once you get that all nice and covered, you're going to turn it up to turning speed and put a little bit more. And then what you're going to do is with the turning speed, you're going to burnish it. Oh, I lost my paper towel there. Oh, got it back. Okay, here we go. Anyway, back into it. We're going to turn up the turning speed and we'll burnish. We'll burnish this up. What that burnishing does is it makes that shellac shine, but it also heats it up and makes it soak into the pores. And you can see right now, especially you see where the light's shining, it's really starting to get that nice glossy. And remember, this is just the first coat. I'll probably do this number 3, maybe 4 times, depending on how many coats I really want with this bowl. And each time I do that, each time between coats, turn your speed down, put a nice little thin coat on your rag. Rub it all the way, but turn your speed back up. Turning speed and burnish it again. You can do this multiple times, get that nice high build, high gloss finish on there. You'll start to feel the heat in your fingers, and if you want to pair a pair of gloves on, you can, because it can get kind of warm with that friction. Again, this shine juice is a really nice friction polish. You can make it yourself. Puts a nice shine again. Look inside that bowl. It's a nice shine again. This is probably only about the probably beginning of the third coat, if I remember right. But that gets that nice, gorgeous shine on it. And nice, and get it nice and burnished. And gets this really nice look on it. It's really good finish, and it's nice and was a nice, somewhat gloss look into a gloss look on a high build friction polish. I really like it. Once you finish burnishing this last coat, it's time to take the blank off my 4-jaw chuck. It looks looking pretty good. I like how it looks. It's a nice shine, and you see the shiner there in the camera light. I really like that. All right, now it's time to take the bowl off my 4-jaw chuck. Now I'm going to take the tenon off. What I like to do is I've obviously to take 4-jaw chuck off. I've made my own homemade jam chuck. I'll put that on here in just a second as I get it out of my drawer. Here we go. There's my jam chuck. Homemade, just a piece of plywood with a little bit of a rubber thing glued it on there. Now you see the rings from other bowls in the past. But the point of this thing is you're putting your pressure of your bowl against the jam chuck and get your tailstock here. As you see here, we're putting it in there and get that hole from earlier. So you just line that hole back up, put your little pressure on there, slide it nice and tight. So you don't have any movement in there. But that jam chuck, what it does is it holds it back obviously against your tailstock. But it's a good way to get rid of this tongue. So we don't want to leave that tongue in there and have it. Because remember, we have a foot on there, but we don't want to leave that tongue. Just turn your speed up. And I don't turn it nearly as high as when my turning speed. I probably go, I don't know, 50, 60% of my normal turning speed. Then I'll start on this. Here I got my half-inch bowl gouge, just trying to remove some material. Here in a little bit, I'll switch into another bowl gouge right there. Again, just removing some of that material and then getting to the point. And I think you can remember, I do have a slight taper into this on the back, kind of a concave back, but you don't want to get too aggressive, too deep, because you'll make another funnel, which I've done in the past. But anyway, here we'll switch to this one. This one helps me. Again, it helps me take this down. Also take it down little by little, coming in is making that piece in the middle smaller and smaller against the tailstock. But again, I'm not being too aggressive because again, I'm not doing it nearly at turning speed, probably about 60%, maybe 70-ish, thereabouts of my normal turning speed because I don't want it to fly off. It doesn't have that four-jaw chuck, that good grip on it. It's just a jam, so it's just that pressure and friction from the tailstock pushing it back into the jam stock. So I don't want to get too aggressive here. But anyway, as you're taking it down, be careful, be slow, methodical, nice clean cuts to the point where you want to get that little bit off. And either you can completely cut it off or you break it off, a little thing at the end. Yeah, I just checked my bottom right there. It looked like there was a little bit of a snag or something in there. Maybe it was a green pop. It turned out it was okay. Maybe it was just the light. I don't know. But anyway, getting back into it here, we'll get this last little part cut off, and then it'll be all done. All right, that looks like it's got that. We'll let that slow down here, and we'll take it off the jam chuck. And you can see sometimes that little end still stays on there, and just a little grab. Sometimes you might have to use a chisel, but it came out pretty good. And that's a little bit of a pull grain, but anyway, we'll be all right. So anyway, I'll grab my sander here, just sand that down just a little bit, make sure it's nice and smooth for whomever wants it. I better change my paper here. Make it something more aggressive than 400. Maybe we'll go 240. I'll put that on here on the sander, and we'll sand the bottom of this thing real quick. Now that we got it all sanded, the only thing left to do now is to put your name on it, put the date, and I always like to put the species of the wood because not everybody can look at the piece of wood and tell you what it is. I always do that for my customers. They really seem to like it. So I always say we'll put hickory down. I like I said, put the day to turn it. Oh, I can't remember the day. Summertime days run together. But anyway, put the date on that I turn this, and I'll just sign my name to it. Then after that, then it's ready to be sold. Again, that's a beautiful piece of hickory. Here you go. Anyway, the final project, gorgeous piece of hickory. I think it turned out great. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to do some more, let me know. I might do a couple of these as I turn. Anyway, I like them. This is one of my hobbies. Y'all have a great day now.